You guys already know DC likes retconning their stuff for continuity. It's like we got pre-crisis, post-crisis, rebirth. You already know what time it is. So we're going to be talking about post-crisis stuff for Ra's al Ghul, and then we're going to be talking about new stuff. All mashed into one video. Let's get it. How strong is he? This right here pretty much sums up Ra's al Ghul. They explained it in the Rebirth Saga. Basically on how he's a legend, learning a lot of different things, even learning the arcane secrets of the pits, which helps him get longevity, doing his travels around the world and such. Ra's al Ghul is someone that has fought to save the world so many times, learned from the world's greatest minds for hundreds of years. Some might think he's a villain. Everything he's done had purpose though. Talking about how his League of Assassins will tear this world apart, making his own organization, building something on his own. Ra's al Ghul is a complicated character. He knows a decent amount of science, but instead of focusing on his science, his obsession with cheating death inspired his creation of the Lazarus pits themselves, which I'm going to get to a lot in this video. But it was also this creation that led to the death of his wife Sora. All this I'm saying is from the newer Rebirth stuff. He refused to believe in any gods or demons, even if his disbelief buried him alive. He did not want to let the earth consume him no matter what, but instead of finding faith, he found anger. He destroyed every trace of the demon. He later on forged his way to becoming Ra's al Ghul, the one we know, conquering, making the League of Assassins, resurrecting himself over and over again, learning different things, resurrecting his own mother. And believe it or not, he actually believes he's doing the right thing because he even told his mother saying the earth is worth saving. He's a very complicated character, not just a villain for no reason. War ended up happening, and that's when he came across magic books to bind beings to a certain island, the demon magic. So believe it or not, Ra's al Ghul knows some sort of curses, but it's not something he spams. It's not like he's Zatanna or nothing. At least in the more newer continuity type stuff. You know he knows some type of magic or certain type of magic because Batman actually discovered the secrets about his League of Assassins or Shadows 3 times. But Ra's al Ghul said, I wipe these memories from your mind with trickery and magic to prove he does have magic spells. Got some pointers from spells to raise the dead like Solomon Grundy, somebody that can't really die for good. He knows some kind of magic to where there was one point when he wasn't immortal, where he was somehow able to absorb the immortality from Grundy, which is actually pretty wild. Ra's al Ghul. When you live as long as him, you have to be able to fight. It would be weird if you couldn't. Just because of that sheer massive amount of battle experience alone. He has a lot of wealth. If you think you're getting the drop on him with binoculars, he's just staring at the binoculars like, yeah, I see you trying to lurk on me, but that don't surprise me. And he's kind of old. I'm talking 700 years type old. How do you lose when you have this much fighting experience? He has even been a physician for hundreds of years. You guys know of the famous Lazarus pit, of course, where it helps him be able to live a long time or heal any injuries. He's a character famously known for his life restoring Lazarus pit. Throughout his studies and his long life, he has been in contact, or people that he knows has been in contact with mystics and sages to where if he was to be torn limb from limb, he would find a way to have his life force survive still, aka inhabiting another living body. Smart enough to dismantle controls of a satellite by busting up the circuitry. He's one of those characters you want as a battle tactician on the battlefield to help strategize situations. Pressure points where one could say nerve pinch. A pinch that will make you sleep for 20 hours. Ra's al Ghul ain't no threat. What's he gonna do against somebody like Superman? All them years of life experience, fighting skills, and knowledge ain't gonna matter against somebody this much more powerful than you that can just speed blitz you with ease, right? I would have thought the same if he didn't have an ultraviolet light grenade that replicates the effects of a red sun that can pretty much depower Superman on the spot, but it won't last long, obviously. And on top of gear like this, on top of always battling Batman, which you're going to see a lot in this vid, Ra's al Ghul has a sword of synthetic kryptonite, just in case he just needed to fight a Kryptonian like Zod or Superman, I guess. There's implications he's dedicated when it comes to hard work and dedication, because you can see him meditating and focusing his mind and training his mind as well as his fighting ability. When we're talking about any kind of weapon, he can use weapons like swords against Bat family members, and can even win in a fight against Bat family members, like Tim Drake, and all Bat family members are super soldier-esque type of range. It just shows his top-notch fighting ability. Battled characters like Nightwing, someone else that's a competent Bat family member, and you already knew this was going to be in the video, him having fights with Batman himself, one of the poster boys when it comes to fighting in DC Comics. He's got more than one occasion against Batman, somebody that knows over hundreds of martial arts abilities. In this occasion, you can see him using a blade yet again in a skirmish with Batman. You would be shocked at his marksmanship. Like, he can use the weapons in melee combat or just has the accuracy to throw it accurately as well. Marksmanship type precision with throwing knives and stuff. We've even seen him use automatic guns, or one could say guns in general, if the situation calls for such. Any weapon laying around, he can definitely use it in a good way if needed. Tagging the eels with a spear gun. I gotta admit, it takes some getting used to seeing him use guns, but you gotta remember he's good with pretty much any weapon. Simply fighting Batman is not a feat by itself, but also matching him in strength, physicals, and fighting speed. Because when it comes to fighting speed, Batman has done absurd stuff and still does. On top of using the blade, he's actually physically pretty good too. Like when you see him using the blade here, he blocks Batman's attacks multiple times. One can say you can get an idea of their physicals on how they clash like this, and one just doesn't get overwhelmed matching them. You can just tell their stats are not far off from one another because it would be a lot more one-sided if they were. Good swordsmen like Katana, he's gotten sword fight with. He got in a sword fight with Plastic Man. Look at this art style. Okay, this looks Looney Toony. Still proved his sword skills though. Yeah, that's kind of funny. Oh, what do you know? Another occasion of him fighting Nightwing and they're both using blades. This should not be surprising at this point. It would be weird if he never fought Bat family members. That's something that's going to be a common theme in this vid. Sword fights with Batman. For those curious, yes, Batman can use a blade. They can go at it, panel for panel, slugfest style, with a sword. Before interrupted, of course. But it's nice to see each panel to get a visual of him hanging with one of the best fighters in DC. This dude loves sword dueling, even if it's Batman. In pure sword combat, we know Wonder Woman's too strong for Ra's al Ghul. Pure skills-wise, he was hanging with Wonder Woman in a sword type of fight. Before Wonder Woman said, let me stop holding back. I don't need this sword to overpower you physically. I don't need to go blow for blow with you like we're in the same level physically. She eventually overpowered him that way. Because who needs to fight you fair in a sword fight when the massive strength gap between us makes the fight irrelevant? Good fighters like Bane I have videos about. He's gotten sword type of duels with, yes. I know it's hard picturing Bane using a blade, but gets the edge on him that way. He took on some skilled fighters while his attention was splintered because he was on the phone while fighting and still getting the edge. How skilled do you have to be on the phone to where they still can't really do much to you even if you're on the phone? This particular scan is newer stuff. He's always preferably good at using the blade. And it just seems like all the time he's always a match for characters like Batman in every form of combat, especially if they use a blade. Disarming beings that are good at using a blade. We see them come across super soldiers like Deathstroke. This could be a showing of his strength and skill and speed. In newer Rebirth continuity, New 52 type stuff, you can see him locking blades with Slade himself, a super soldier tier for sure. You shouldn't have to question how competent he is at this point. When it comes to fighting speed, Slade literally in this same comic book panel can deflect bullets with his sword. When it comes to fighting speed, despite this strength advantage or speed or whatever Deathstroke does have, one could argue the Lazarus Pit is what gives him enhanced strength to hang with super soldiers, but he can hang with them in strength, sword play, fighting speed, and etc. Even landing good blows on him when it comes to speed. Them two going panel for panel with each other. So him hanging with Slade is definitely not a fluke. He's skilled, fast enough, and strong enough to hang with super soldiers. We've even seen new continuity Deathstroke deflect bullets while blitzing, react and block electric blasts, react and block Superman's heat vision with his fighting speed, and we know for a fact he can keep up with Deathstroke in battle, so he has to have similar speed. There was a fighting style invented by Vandal Savage that Black Adam was using on Batman that Ra's al Ghul studied for a whole lifetime to learn the basic forms of that he himself does know at least, or art mastered for Immortals. You know this fighting style is a beast because Black Adam, somebody that's also very old, when he powered down to fight Batman in human form, so the fight won't be a mismatch because he wanted to fight him as equals, human. Fighting styles like this help him hang with characters as good as Batman. And you guys know who Talia's father is, Ra's al Ghul. Knew this fighting style invented by Vandal Savage. I mean, Ra's has trained the sword masters of the first fencing academies on the planet. He has 7 centuries of experience. There's even things Ra's in the newer continuity teaches Batman. He admitted that Ra's taught him to treat memory like a museum. It's how he keeps 1,000 years in his mind. When it comes to possible futures that seem very likely due to him being able to live a very long time in the very future with the Legion of Superheroes and stuff, he had Flight Ring and was able to spam nerve clusters to alien anatomy, aka pressure point, like on some Neji type stuff, and just spam and tear up all your nerves in a low-key speed blitz type of way. But yeah, we don't have to rely on that. We've even seen him restrain beings like Nightwing on this occasion. Don't forget that Nightwing that was pretending to be Batman was able to stop an orca from eating him, puts a grip around super beings like Man-Bat physically, made Gorilla Grodd bleed, and he's strong enough to punch and KO beings through armor. Yet Ra's al Ghul is a being that be fighting and competing with beings this strong all the time. You guys already know about the Lazarus pit resurrecting him. They say he's temporarily at the peak of his resurrection, he gains the strength of supposedly 10 men. But even when he's not enhanced by the Lazarus, he still seems to have ridiculously crazy strength than normal because he's always hanging with Batman, who does superhuman stuff all the time, right? But at the peak of his resurrection, he can like overpower Batman really badly. They say this strength boost is temporary, but who's to say it doesn't have any permanent or lasting effect? It probably has subtle strength boost increases throughout the years for him. If he has a blade, he would just slice you in half. Doctors and nurses, y'all are not strong enough for him. He's got a vice grip to crush metal with his bare hands. Physically, he's gotten a fight with Ezreal and punched him one time and made him sleepy. Can chop, knock out, or make somebody die from a single hit. Robin's like Tim, he has chopped and made him sleepy before. Like, it's straight obvious he can strike hard as heck. Strength-wise, he ain't the strongest character in the world, but he's fought beings like Grundy who physically have the advantage over him, and surprisingly, does pretty well against him. In this occasion, it was a 2v1 kinda, I have to admit, but using a blade, dodging attacks like this, and parrying, he can still cut and slash, and even take off his head and appears to die, but he's not really dead because Grundy doesn't stay dead. But yeah, he still is, but that was still a cool fight to watch. And you kind of got to know his fighting speed is impressive. During his fights with Batman, we see him cut batarangs out of the air with his fighting speed. We've seen him blitz people before they can react with his fighting speed by stabbing Talia with a blade. Anybody that can withstand punches to the face from Batman and keep on fighting, face punches from Batman. I mean, he's used to uncomfortable weather, right? Say it with me, everybody. Ra's al Ghul has had the famous temporary power-up, yay, where he gets stronger than he usually is, and this is not his standard power-up, then ends up losing it, but he does get godlike for a little period. Temporary power-up. Because he wants to become a deity. This way he was powered by something else other than the Lazarus pit, something called the Well of Sins. Empowerment. Being powered up by the Well of Sins, you can see he can do extra stuff like levitate. Notice how his body glows with greenish aura around him. He can make a sword out of energy, and he also manifested Jason's like little fears around him, like how he made him see the Joker and stuff. One can make an argument and say he had fear projection. It's hard to tell for certain what was his power level like this, because he literally lost the power so fast we didn't get to see much of it. And he actually got the power taken away. And that's that. Getting mad at the power being taken and everything. But he does not need this temporary power to be a beast anyway, right? Everybody that's just about going to do it, you probably didn't know Ra's al Ghul had all these layers to him. You probably knew he was like one of the best fighters of all time, but you probably didn't know he knew some magic that can wipe your memory, had swords to fight Kryptonians or grenades to fight against Kryptonians, prep type stuff. Or you probably didn't know he can fight super soldiers, or he gets a temporary power boost when he's fresh out of the Lazarus pit. Getting wins on Robins and Bat family members through no matter which continuity just seems like a standard thing. I personally think he should be one of the best fighters by default just because of the ridiculous amount of fighting experience, him having to conquer. It's just too much evidence of it. He does prefer to use a blade, but he can definitely use all types of weapons. But what do you guys think? But before I get going, I have to say thanks for the donations. Respect Ra's al Ghul. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.